Spending as much time with him as you did, what did your grandfather do in his downtime, and what ignited his imagination as an interest apart from the scriptures?
Well, he was an athlete, and so he took his exercises religiously every day. But one of the things that he did, not only would he listen to God, but he listened to people. And so in the Christian ashram, the first occasion is the morning of the open heart, where everybody who attends, they say, "Why have you come? What do you want, and what do you really need?" And he would sit down and write down, so-and-so needs this, not by name, but by number, because then he had a pulse on what the community needed, and he would preach to that issue. So he was always listening, and his books really all emerged from what he heard about what people were saying. Somebody wanted to be more mature, Christian maturity emerged. Somebody wanted to know how to live an abundant life, abundant living would emerge. And then he was always very concerned about that the Christian church would stay focused on Christ and not get caught up in its own dealings. He was a listener.
Yeah, he was a listener. And how was he with you? I mean, you're his granddaughter. Was he affirming? Did he see himself as a mentor, as a teacher? What was his relationship with you?
He was great fun. He had a fantastic sense of humor. He would fool around. He would joke. One time there's a picture of him wearing my earrings and, you know, playing with me. He certainly, he didn't insist that anybody, you know, follow him, but he, again, offer them Christ, and that we have the freedom to choose or to not.
How did pastors relate to him?
Well, I think many were really glad to hear his sermons. I mean, he worked very hard on these sermons. These were not spontaneous sermons. He would go up to his ashram in Satal, India, and spend 3 months crafting 12 sermons, down to the last joke. I mean, they would be well constructed on a theme, and generally related to self-surrender and the power of Christ. So you could learn a lot from these sermons. They were biblically based, but they were highly illustrated with what was happening in his world. I think I liked reading his sermons. I'm not a preacher.
Yeah. Well, you know, the book that you wrote, Living Upon the Way, you highlight 15 of his sermons, and I can see why you like them. I mean, they're absolutely engaging and intriguing. Where did he find the time to write? Now, he not only wrote this series, Victorious Living, which is a full year's devotional study, but he did 10 other series. I mean, where did you find the time to do this?
The man never wasted a minute. He was always writing, preaching, praying, and reading the Bible. He didn't waste a minute. Did
you have any time with him near the end of his life?
Yes, I in fact went to, he had his stroke in Oklahoma City, and at that point I was working in rehabilitation medicine. I went to Oklahoma City, brought him back to Boston rehab hospitals. He was there for several months, and then he asked the doctors, he said, "Can I go back to India?" Well, there was nothing more that medical science could do for him in the United States, so they said, "Sure." So I went with my father and brother, and I stayed with him up at Satal to get him situated. I stayed there for another couple of months.
Now, he would have, at that point, he would have flown to India, right?
Yeah, we flew to India.
And was he fit to travel? I mean,
well, he'd had a brainstem stroke, so he couldn't speak well, and he was essentially paralyzed on the right side of his body. But we got him there, and he wanted to learn how to walk again. So my father set up a channel, a 2x4, to help keep his legs from crossing, and they would pray, "Lord, I want to walk." And he learned how to walk. He walked 1.5 miles, he climbed steps, and he preached 50 times after his stroke. You know, he felt like he was the same person after his stroke, very hard to understand, but he felt in him the divine yes had sounded. In Christ, the divine yes has sounded. I'm the same person because I'm in Christ. Very moving.
Yeah, really. I mean, the man had an iron will and a really strong sense of who he was in the Lord, as you say. Just a few minutes left. When he died, where did he die, and where was the funeral held?
He died in a mission hospital in Brayley, India, and he asked that if he died in India, that he be cremated and that a part of his ashes be buried in Satal in India, and that happened. And then a friend brought his ashes back to the United States, and he was buried in the Bishop's Plot from the United Methodist Church in Baltimore, Maryland, where he was born in Maryland. I want to say a word about, I think he was so deep and so right in his understanding of human suffering, because obviously Jesus didn't deny that it happened. But something is so present in the Christian faith where we can use suffering. And my grandfather would say, if you have a blue moment, like he did, well, pray about it, and then go out and find somebody else who's suffering too and help them.
Good stuff. So good to have you with us, Ann. This is Ann Mathews-Younes' grandfather's classic, Victorious Christian Living. It is a marvelous, through the year devotional Bible study that has just stood the test of time. And it's as current today as it was back in the Great Depression when he first released it. Back then it sold 1 million copies. It is truly a Christian classic. And to have this offer for you is really special, at least from our perspective, it certainly is. And for your best ministry gift, we send this as our thanks. There's the coordinates, both in Canada and the U.S. The quickest way, perhaps, is 1-800-265-3100, although crossroads.ca is pretty quick, too. But just remember, your best ministry gifts, remember here at the end of the year that we are so reliant on your generosity. And as we work together, we're able to bring such blue chip interviews as this has been your way. So thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure having you, and we'll be back with more right after this.